Well, another big topic this week was the racist abuse that Vinny Jr. said he received during Real Madrid's game at Benfica in the Champions League. Here's what Jose Mourinho had to say after. He said, "It happens in so many stadiums, always the same person. Something isn't right. I told Vinicius on the pitch, you score an otherworldly goal. Why do you celebrate like this?" All right, well, here's what Real Madrid manager Alvaro Arbeloa had to say in Friday's presser.
Cada uno, evidentemente, es libre de dar su opinión. Yo estoy dando la mía. Creo que Vinicius Jr. marcó un auténtico golazo, un golazo en un campo pues, fenomenal, fantástico, y que celebró un gol, como hemos visto cientos y cientos y cientos de veces celebrar a muchos futbolistas a lo largo de la historia. Y muchos futbolistas sin importar su condición ni color de piel. Y vuelvo a repetirme, no podemos poner a la víctima como provocador, no lo vamos a permitir. Yo en mi caso creo que es injustificable, creo que lo que está haciendo dentro del campo de fútbol desde que yo estoy aquí pues está siendo absolutamente sensacional, brillante, está decidiendo partidos, está marcando auténticos golazos, está echando el equipo a la espalda, es un jugador que pues ya no solo es desequilibrante, sino que quiere asumir esa responsabilidad dentro del equipo. Y luego es un chico que no tiene miedo, ¿no? Y que es capaz de ser tan valiente, de vivir situaciones como las que vivió el otro día y ser capaz de volver a un terreno de juego.
All right, our Stewart Robson is still with us, but Alex Kirkland is joining us for this chat. Alex, you were at that game, so what's been the reaction like in Spain since then?
Yeah, lots of reaction to what Jose Mourinho said. As you mentioned, I was sat in that press conference and couldn't believe what I was hearing from Mourinho and how sort of deeply misguided it was, his reaction after the game. Arbeloa said it there in his news conference today. Whatever Vinicius Jr.'s celebration was like after scoring that fantastic goal, there is no justification. Nothing justifies racist abuse. And so there's been a lot of, I think, kind of outrage and surprise at the way that Mourinho reacted. It's been developments really the last few days. We've had UEFA launching their investigation. We've had Real Madrid providing a dossier to UEFA of the available evidence they have to contribute to that investigation. Of course, there will be limits to what is available because, as we all know, the alleged abuse happened with the player covering his mouth with his shirt. The latest developments today, some sources telling ESPN that the player Gianluca Prestianni has already given evidence to UEFA, his version of the story. And what those sources have told ESPN quite remarkably is that his version of events is that he says he used a homophobic slur rather than a racist slur. That is his, and I use quotation marks, his defense in this case. So we're waiting for a conclusion. And of course, the sort of the deadline in a way is that we've got the second leg next week at the Bernabeu, and there's already a lot of talk about just what is the atmosphere going to be like going into that game. Now, Jose Mourinho, of course, will not be involved because he was sent off in the second half of the first leg, so he won't be involved at the Bernabeu, so the crowd won't get the chance to react or to sort of give their verdict on Mourinho, who of course is to many a legend at Real Madrid. But Prestianni, at least as far as we know right now, is expected to be involved in the Benfica squad, and so of course all eyes will be on, if he is indeed involved in the squad and in the team, if he plays, just how the Bernabeu reacts to him as well.
And Alex, just to follow up on those new developments that you just mentioned for us, that Prestianni has said in his evidence that he submitted to UEFA. So what kind of punishment are we looking at if he does get punished at all?
Yeah, well, interestingly, you take a look at UEFA's disciplinary regulations on this, and they are very clear. When it talks about racism, homophobia, any form of discrimination, essentially, the punishment is the same. UEFA talk about something like a 10-game ban or similar in those circumstances. And that would be the same whether indeed it was, in this case, racist abuse or homophobic abuse. So if that has indeed been Prestianni's defense, as ESPN has been told, that wouldn't necessarily make a difference in terms of the outcome, in terms of the punishment. Now, like I say, we're awaiting the conclusion of that inquiry and then for the findings of that inquiry to be made public. But potentially, yeah, like I say, we're talking about something like a 10-game ban or something similar. So potentially really quite I think it's hard to say what is an appropriate punishment for conduct like this, but certainly UEFA in recent years have started to take this kind of thing more seriously.
As they should, so we can finally come out of the dark ages. But Alex, just following up on what Arbeloa had to say, because he has spoken so highly of Vini Jr., and it's true that we have seen an improvement in Vini Jr.'s form since he came in comparison to Xabi's tenure.
Yeah, absolutely. We know that there was a big kind of breakdown in the relationship between Vinicius Jr. and Xabi Alonso that started last summer, pretty much straight away after Alonso arrived. There was a feeling from Vini Jr. and from his camp that Alonso, didn't fully kind of believe in him and back him. And we saw Alonso putting Vini on the bench in a number of games in different competitions, in La Liga, in the Champions League, even when available, when fully fit, something that never happened before. Arbeloa has taken a completely different approach. We've seen sort of the number one priority of Arbeloa since taking the job has been to get the key players back on side, make sure they're happy. And the number one, really, top of his list was to get Vinicius Jr. back and on form. And we're starting to see that. It's been a difficult season for him. Like I say, he was sort of in and out of the team under Arbeloa, hasn't always been delivering. But you look at the last few weeks, he's been scoring goals consistently, game after game. I think it's something like 3 games in a row in the games that he's been available that he's scored. He scored that incredible goal against Benfica. Sorry, he scored that great goal in the Spanish Supercopa against Barcelona as well. So it feels like he's getting back to being the player that we know that he can be for Real Madrid. And so far, at least in that sense, I think Arbeloa has been successful in terms of getting Vini back on board.